It's actually happening as a massive new report has just dropped from a very notable MLB insider surrounding Bo Bichette that confirms exactly what the rest of the MLB was afraid of. We're going to break down exactly what this report is and discuss what it means going forward, as well as a bunch of other updates as things are really starting to pick up this week as meetings are getting underway and there's a lot of things happening. You're going to want to stay tuned until the end of the video as well. But before we get into it all, if you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Jays content, folks. There's a lot of news going on today, and I believe the GMs are meeting in Vegas this week. There's a lot of things that are going to be happening, reports from Jeff Passan and all these different things. But a huge new report has just dropped today surrounding Bo Bichette that is great news for Jays fans and bad news for the rest of the MLB. And you can see here it's gaining a ton of traction because it's absolutely huge. Free agent infielder Bo Bichette is expected to re-sign with the Blue Jays this offseason per Bob Nightingale. Now, this is notable for a few different reasons. And let's dive into just the full report here. Again, Bichette, who was expected to depart Toronto a year ago and whose name surfaced a year ago in trade talks, now is expected to stay put to complete their goodwill tour. And that was from the full article dropping by Bob Nightingale, who had a ton of things to say about the Jays, about other teams. And this is the time of the year where there's a lot of pretty notable reports. Now, for Bob Nightingale, he's a pretty notable guy. He gets a lot of things right. Sure, he gets some things wrong. He's not quite as reputable as guys like Jeff Passan or Ben Nicholson-Smith or Shadavidi, but he is pretty reputable. Now, why this is so interesting is for a few different reasons. One, I'm going to dive into a bunch of reports here. Ben Nicholson-Smith is saying the Jays are going to most likely get Bichette back. You have Keegan Matheson hinting at the idea as well. And then a guy from the American media now, who this time last year said that there is no chance that Bo extends with Toronto after the season this year, bearing the unthinkable happening, is confirming basically that he is expected to re-sign with the Jays. And of course, this is probably him hearing from other teams. It's sources with the Dodgers, the front office with the other teams, them saying, no, he's basically going back to the Jays. It's confirmed. For a guy like Nightingale, who's notoriously not anti-Blue Jays necessarily, but again, said the Jays weren't getting him back, for even him to be saying this, to me at least, confirms that there is a very good chance that it happens. And there was a lot within his article about Kyle Tucker and the Jays, a lot of these different things which we'll cover on the channel, but this is a very good start to the offseason, and it's one that it's a bit of an unfamiliar feeling here because most of the times in the offseason, I've been covering them for years now, things start with the Jays, being linked to some players, but not super heavily linked, but more so other teams being linked. I mean, we think back to the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. sweepstakes last year where so many teams were linked to him. And then, of course, Ohtani, the Jays were linked to him, but so were a bunch of other teams. For now, Bo Bichette, who is a unrestricted free agent, I guess there's no restrictions, but a free agent, can do whatever he wants. The Jays are a favorite according to a ton of people. And you think back to a bunch of the reports that have dropped, whether it be from, like I mentioned, Ben Nicholson-Smith or others. Now, something else to note, this was from a few days ago. Bob Nightingale actually predicted Atlanta Braves to get Bo Bichette, where two other reporters predicted the Jays, but he's changed his mind. So something in the past few days has altered Bob Nightingale's reporting and his thinking, and it probably was through him checking with some other sources. This is fantastic news. Now, you pair this with Dan Schulman, who came out recently and said, I wonder if the chances have increased of Bo Bichette coming back, and basically, watched a clip and said that, making a World Series, Bo has always said he wants to play in Toronto, and that probably increases chances of him coming back, both the Vladdy extension and, of course, him being a crucial part of the World Series run, both in the regular season to get them to the AL East Championship, but also, of course, once he actually played in the World Series after missing all the time. It's all good news, folks, and it's actually happening here. Like, every reporter is kind of agreeing, and we'll wait to see what Jeff Passan says about Bo Bichette here soon, which I'm sure we'll get sometime this week. There's meetings in Vegas. But Keegan Matheson also coming out and saying that Bo has always said he wants to play the rest of his career in Toronto and with Vladdy. And if you've watched the videos on the channel, Keegan Matheson has always been an advocate for, hey, whatever Bo Bichette says, listen to him, because that's exactly what he's feeling. And it's hard to imagine now the Jays not making him their number one priority, because if you get Bo Bichette back, not only does it extend your window greatly, you can basically run it back if you wanted to, of course, adding a couple other guys, adding some pitchers, and hopefully one more bat, but it just opens up the potential for more free agents to come to Toronto, which is exactly what you want for this team. Now, they're going to be in on Kyle Tucker. They're going to be in on a lot of the bigger names in free agency, but most importantly, they need to lock down Bo Bichette, because if you go out this offseason and let's say you extend Bo Bichette, but you don't get any huge major splashes, you maybe get a starting pitcher, you can't call it a completely horrible offseason because of the fact that they got Bo Bichette and they can run it back, and this is still a World Series team. And we can say that now, right? They made it last year. They should have arguably won it. And as you look at some of the projections here are some of the other contracts I got from Spot Track of some very similar, I guess, to some degree, contracts for shortstop. So Lindor in 2022, 10 years, 341. Seager, 10 years, 325. Turner, 11 years, 300. And I think a more realistic comparison would be somewhere between that Bobby Witt contract and the Marcus Semien contract. Now, whether it's a Willy Adames, 7 years, 182, I think he probably gets something in the realm of $26 to $30 million AAV. Now, if you missed it, Ben Nicholson-Smith came out, and I covered this in a video a couple days ago, and he said he's heard estimates in line with 5 years, $130 million, which the more you think about it, that would be a bit ludicrous, way cheaper than anyone else. And he's coming off of a great year, and he was one of only 6 hitters with at least a 290 average and 400 RBIs in the 2020s, so the past 5 years. One of the game's most consistent offensive threats will make a team very happy this winter, and you can see the names that he's paired with. His fellow teammate Vladdy, his fellow best friend Vladdy, and of course his fellow superstars alongside of him on other teams in the AL and NL, in Yordan Alvarez, Trey Turner, Aaron Judge, and Freddie Freeman. Interesting that Shohei Ohtani's not up there, but again, it's probably because of some of the injuries and things like that, but he hasn't gotten quite the amount of playing time. But he's in the same level of hitters as, again, the Shoheis, to a degree, but also Freddie Freeman, Aaron Judge, Trey Turner, Yordan Alvarez, all these different guys. He is such a consistent bat. He's such a consistent player that you look at the peripherals. He had basically the highest expected batting average in the MLB. You look at what he's expected to make, and I'd be fine with basically any of these contracts from Bobby Witt down. I don't think he should touch $300 million. He's probably not going to get $280, but if you have to pay him 8 years, $220, 8 years, even maybe 8 years, $250, just to get it done, it keeps the AAV somewhat reasonable at 8 years, but most importantly, you're lining yourself up. Now, the big contract that was used as a comparison for a while was Willy Adames at 7 years, 182 with a $26 million AAV. You could argue that, that's fine too. Just get the job done. And I truly believe they will. These reports here, every report, there hasn't been one, report from a notable insider, and we'll have a video coming out what I was just alluding to in a minute, bit of foreshadowing, but from one notable MLB insider, there hasn't been one that has said, he wants out of Toronto. Keegan Matheson, all the Jays guys are saying he wants in. Dan Shulman, and most importantly, of course, Ben Nicholson-Smith. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here, but it's actually happening, folks. For once, the reporters are actually siding with the Jays as it pertains to a free agent and aren't just using them as leverage. It seems like it's actually happening, and this is exactly what the MLB was afraid of here. The Jays running it back, but not only running it back, potentially getting even better with more and more high-level free agents being interested in coming, and even some players from the MPB or the Japanese league is what I'm trying to say. Over there trying to come over to Toronto. But that'll wrap it up. Let me know down below what your thoughts are on this, and does this report excite you, or do you think it's just going to be a waiting game? We'll keep you up to date with all the latest news. See you guys later.